In this video, we're going to review a report that I'm working on for hardware asset management. And specifically today, I wanted to go over some things related to the format of a slide and how to make a positive slide for your report. Specifically, we'll be going over a few versions of this cost slide that I've been putting together and just look at the different things to think about. Here's my table of contents. Let's go ahead, we'll publish this and we'll jump out into the viewer so we can look at it there. If I was giving a presentation, this is what I would be working from. The first thing we're going to do is going to go to the first version of this slide. One thing to think about is the information that you're putting on there. What are you trying to tell or instruct the person reading the slide? And there's some principles here that we should pay attention to. I've marked up a couple of these here. The first is just the way that people read a slide. This seems pretty obvious, but people read from top left to bottom right. So you should always put your most important information at the top left and then supporting information and least important information down towards the bottom right. So as you can see in this slide here, I got the question that our slide is answering. So if we go back over here, we're asking the question, what is the total spend of our hardware assets last month? That tells the user, the person reading the report, this is what this slide is about. So that's helpful. It at least gives them knowledge of what they should be learning from this slide. And then the very next thing that they'll see is potentially the date, because you read left to right, but most likely is also this big number that's here. It's bigger than the others to give it some contrast, and it's the next thing in line from kind of that angle, and it's the amount of spend we had last month. Now this is kind of nice because the next thing in line would be the spend per year, so it's giving context to the conversation. The question we would ask ourselves is spend for this year, the context that we want right after the spend of last month. After putting this slide together, I actually thought, no, it's not. I actually want to know in context, $199,000, like what is that compared to other months? So that's this chart here. So that's helpful. However, I have to get to it in order to get that information. This information could come later if needed. So here's another concept when you're reading a slide. It's called the F pattern. And again, if you're reading from top left to bottom right, one thing that you do also just naturally is you scan left to right. So here we have, our total spend, and that's why potentially the date of the report is what's going to be next. But then you scan down, see information, go left to right. So again, it is good that we put that value here, but this one may get a little maybe out of order because I don't think it's the context we want next. So again, if we're scanning left to right. The other thing that's here, and you see if you're doing this F pattern, is I kind of have a big gap. Space is fine, but we don't have to fill every space on a slide for sure. But having stuff out of context and then, space that's there gives us something to think about. So let's go back here and this is the second version I put together. Now, what I did was, you can see I moved this over because now we're going to read left to right. We're going to see this. Now I either come down, I might scan left to right again. So again, it's still there. So maybe it's still out of order and not helping us. I did also try to highlight this a little bit using a different color because again, the thing that we want to do most is tell the reader what the total spend for hardware assets last month was, and making that stand out a little bit more is helpful. Now, if we happen to go here next, so we're scanning left to right, maybe we scan quickly and skip that, or maybe we go down, we do have this information here. But again, it would be nice if this is the first thing we read and this is the second thing we read, so we get that immediate context of this among other month spends. So how can we do that? And that we'll go to the third option. So here you can see I actually added some more context, but actually put that value right in the top. So now when we go, I marked it up. I don't have 2 red boxes with important information. I have 1 red box. So if someone's scrolling through our slides quickly, they get all the information they need to answer the question we're trying to answer on this very first piece of information. So we spent $199,689 last month. Let's go back to our table of contents, and the subtitle here is a review of hardware assets last month. So again, that very first piece of information, the title of that slide, gives the answer to this. Now, there may be questions that people have, what does that mean in context of other months? Well, here, the first thing you're going to see is that context. So first thing is the most important, and then we see right next that context. We had this same chart on the others. I did change the orientation of it to make the slide look better, but we see that context of within the months right here. Possibly may want to flip this so that we have our most recent month on top, but that's just personal preference, or that's probably what I would think about doing. But then we get the context here, so we have the spend this year, so we see, okay, in 2025, how much have we spent this year? Over the last 12 months, how much have we spent? We've spent $1.7 million in the last 12 months. So it gives us context for that $199,000. And then again, we have this chart, which we've had on the other places, but we hadn't even got to it in the discussion so far. But this is, okay, so of that $1.7 million, what's the breakdown of those assets as far as the model category? And then we can see that here. I did limit it to just the top 10 model categories for this visual, but you can modify that as you see fit. So those are just some principles to consider. At the moment, I think this is the best of the 3 slides, but I would love to hear your feedback and take on if you have any suggestions.